Thank you very much, and thank you to the Center for inviting the Human Development Report Office here. It's exciting to sort of become part of UNDP's effort to really have these global centers and global areas of sort of focus and analysis, and I think something I've already had an opportunity with some of you to discuss how we can maybe have a more continuous relationship and take advantage of it. But I'm here really to talk about the development of this year's report and, in a way, the preparation of human development reports. But in a way, I also wanted to, almost from the start, flag two hats that I come with. One is the Human Development Report. This is last year's report, and this year's report will also look much better. But I also have another hat that is a world that counts. I was fortunate to be a member of the independent expert advisory group on the data revolution, and that in a way also informs a lot both how I look at human development, but also as initiatives where the organization can do more work. And it is in many ways also related to the work that we are currently seeking to complete on this year's Human Development Report, which has the maybe slightly sort of unyielding title of Rethinking Work for Human Development. It started off actually with last year's report, where we gave a lot of attention to vulnerability and resilience. That was actually the theme, but also saw a return to policies of full employment and social protection as being really, two of the leading policy areas, in addition to early childhood development, in terms of strengthening people to overcome vulnerability. And this year, we have, in a way, also with a new director, given it a slight twist. And that's why we are now looking at work that goes beyond jobs and employment to really look at a very broad area, which also is seeking to look at both how work is changing due to advances in technology and social communication, but also to include the areas that we tend to overlook. That is unpaid work, low-paid care work, work in the informal sector, and also other types of work that it no longer follows a sort of traditional job profile. And also to recognize that we talk of jobs and the social value of work and employment, but also that there are bad jobs. There's work that is not rewarding and not dignifying, and how can we also, in a way, make all types of work support human development. And in this year, we therefore also develop an analytical framework where we will be looking at particularly these four areas. One is the whole question of women's employment and work, with a lot of attention also to care work, unpaid care work or low-paid care work done by migrant women. And I think here we are getting into one of the areas that are also very relevant, maybe in the Singapore context. But we are also paying a lot of attention to the new ways of work and how IT really is changing it, and that there are now evidence to suggest that at least some of the traditional white-collar, white-shoe jobs may disappear, including lawyers, mortgages, settlement, and these areas, and also in a way have real positive impact, for example, in medicine, in terms of telemedicine, but also these MOOC, long-distance training. But what it really is, and we are seeking to investigate, is it also affects social relations. And one of the risks that are in it is also that it increases inequality. That while a lot of access to a lot of services may become much easier and much cheaper, the security of the people who are actually engaged in them is not very high. And people can no longer foresee starting after college and then continue in one job or one field for the rest of their lives, but that they will be going in and out of assignments. And that also has very severe implications for social protection. Their access to social services, pension, building up, accumulating pensions, and how, again, the government, the public sector also organizes itself in terms of assuring that all members of society actually have their rights met and can benefit from these type of services. And so it really is also to ensure that all societies can take advantage of it. But of course the report will also extensively celebrate that these new ways of work and IT has also enabled outsourcing and value chain, global value chains, and in a way created jobs across the world, but also have been associated with a new type of insecurity and uncertainty about the future. And then, of course, the report will also be paying quite some attention to these, the jobs that are insecure, and also issues of trafficking, illicit migration, lack of access to protection services there, and some of the jobs and sectors that are still very vulnerable and high risk, including, for example, mining. So it poses a lot of questions to how can also governments organize themselves and accommodate and really meet and address the rights of citizens. And I think also in the report, we are certainly also going to look and quite a lot on what is the implication of the data revolution or the access to new information, better ways of understanding the inequalities that are arising. But also there, recognizing that these inequalities are also cross-border, and that there is a need for much greater international cooperation, including in these new areas. And one of the things that the report will sort of go back almost to more traditional policy areas in terms of encouraging societies to really develop employment plans, which although we say we look at work, not just jobs and employment, it really still is a need to focus on building up employment plans, setting employment targets so that you don't only have inflation targets, but that monetary policies are also informed by consideration for expanding the labor market in individual countries, also in the recognition that there is, and one of the real scars of our times is youth unemployment. And we look in some continents, and Africa in particular, they will be seeing huge bulges coming also again over the next 2 or 3 decades. And the demand for labor there is very high, and will continue to be efforts to escape or move from agriculture into urban centers, and what will be the implications in terms of also creating dignified work in urban centers. So those are a number of the areas, but again, how can governments again recommit to moving towards full employment, and also finding innovative ways of developing social protection systems. Because again, with people no longer being tied to one employer for a lifetime, you don't build up your retirement funds the same way as you would have done 1 or 2 decades ago. So people need to have much more movable, transferable social protection schemes, and also to meet changing social protection needs. And I think that's one of the areas that we have, again, also heard already are coming up, and again, also to really take into account the particular needs that, of women, and especially those who are in the care economy. Well, also just sort of before I move on, give the microphone on, we will also be looking at or paying attention to the creative economy. To say that there are also, both in terms of developing society, contributing to social cohesion and a sense of identity, but the role that artistic work plays, both in terms of whether they are craft, artisanal or real artistic manifestations, that they are very important and needs to be valued, and also in public policy there needs to be a recognition that these activities matter, and that there will be people in society who are maybe better geared towards these types of activities rather than developing apps at home. So we really try to cover a very broad range of activities, but we'll also leave, and that's maybe where the discussion with this team also comes in, I mean, we will leave with a set of questions more as to, you know, how can societies really develop themselves and also develop policies that are more accommodating and inclusive for all members of society. And that's also where making better use of the data that are available through many different sources and many different partnerships also become available. So I think that's what I want to say about the report now. Thank you.